Welcome to my very first FNAF fan game video. Yes, despite the 16,852 fan-made FNAF games on GameJolt, this is the first time I've actually decided to cover one. And we'll get into why exactly that is in just a second. Recently, a game developer named Bouncy Tech released a Five Nights at Freddy's fan game called Five Nights at Freddy's The Silver Eyes Fan Game. A game completely based on the first chapter of the book of the FNAF trilogy. Or should I say the original FNAF trilogy, since Scott already announced he's working on more books. But what we're looking at here is essentially a play-by-play of the Silver Eyes that you can literally play through yourself. That's right, books! We found yet another reason to not read you. If we can't watch you on the big screen, we'll just play through you instead. The printed word is dying, people, but that's a topic for another day. What I want to talk about today is the implications of a fan game like this. And when I say a game like this, what I'm talking about is a game that takes the relevant lore of an existing game and adapts it into its own thing. This poses an interesting question, and it's one I haven't really thought about before. Is it okay to recreate FNAF or other creators' storylines and lore with a different medium than the original? More importantly, is it okay for the not original creator to do it without explicit permission? Let's find out. Now, I could do a full playthrough of the Silver Eyes fan game, but honestly, if you read the book, you know what happens in the first chapter. To summarize the game, and I guess the book chapter also, we start out as Charlie huddled in the corner of the pizzeria arcade, hurting and afraid. Metallic breaking noises emanate around us. We're not alone. We're being hunted. Terrifyingly, arcade cabinet after arcade cabinet are being pushed aside. Broken, giving us short images of Foxy getting closer and closer. We look at our arm, blood soaked into our clothes as terrifying Foxy scurries around us, forcing a path to us. There's a moment of silence and uneasiness in the air right before an animatronic scream as the fox reaches out towards us with his hook. And then the scene goes black, only to open up to Charlie driving her totally not product placement blue Audi past a sign that reads, "Welcome to Hurricane, Utah." Why can Charlie afford an Audi? I drive a Toyota. Anyway, Charlie is returning to her hometown for a ceremony dedicated to her old friend Michael, who died years ago. She's going to meet her hometown friends at Mel's Diner, but stops at her father's old house on the way. Once there, we go inside. The place is abandoned and empty. It gives a haunted feeling as we walk our childhood home. The walls are in disrepair with random dirt and spots of mold growth on them. As we enter our old room, we see a few familiar faces. Theodore, our stuffed rabbit with an eerie resemblance to Bonnie. Stanley, our unicorn on a circular track. And Ella, a doll on a track that comes in and out of a tiny closet. Ella's tiny closet is stationed next to Charlie's childhood closet. And then a larger double-doored closet that was meant for use once she grew up. Of course, that day never came. Cause she's dead. After we explore the inside of the house, we could go back outside to visit the workshop out back. This is Henry's workshop. The place he created toys and animatronics before he committed suicide. Visiting the workshop triggers a flashback of Charlie seeing an endoskeleton that makes her extremely uncomfortable because the endoskeleton looked like it was in pain. In her discomfort, Charlie leaves and sets her destination to Mel's Diner, where she meets up with her old friends to reminisce on what happened in their past. After a bit of dialogue and talking about the old Freddy's Pizzeria, they decide to visit the abandoned pizzeria. If it's still even there. I'm gonna guess that it is. But that's where the game ends with a scene that reads, "To be continued in Chapter 2. You can play through the entire thing in about 5 minutes. I'll link the game in the description below. It follows the book incredibly closely, down to the most minute details. It's essentially the same as the first book chapter. It uses the same timing, the same dialogue, the same everything, which all makes sense since it's supposed to be a recreation. But is that okay to do? Is it transformative enough to not be taken down by our main man, Scott Cawthon? Scott has an interesting relation with fan-made content. While he doesn't stop it from being made, he does have rules for it. specifically when it comes to fan games. If you happened to email Scott during the production process of FNAF 3, you got this automated response. Hi, thanks for the email. Forgive this automated response, but please understand that I get hundreds of emails an hour and can't reply to all of them, even though I wish I could. I enjoy the FNAF community and appreciate your support. Five Nights at Freddy's 3 is in production. Please do not email me asking any questions about it. No questions about FNAF 3 will be read or answered. Geez, Scott. Kind of makes sense, actually. Concerning fan games, I love to see fan games and encourage them as long as they are free and do not infringe on anyone else's rights. Please clearly label your game as a fan game, and as a courtesy, please do not name your game Five Nights at Freddy's 3, 4, etc., as it may cause confusion. I reserve the right to have fan games removed if they duplicate the original games too closely or if I feel it's necessary for some reason. No mobile game versions of Five Nights at Freddy's fan games will be permitted. Please be supportive of people in the community and those creating fan games. You have the power to build people up or tear them down. Please be something positive in the lives of people around you. The email continues, but this is all we need. This Silver Eyes fan game comes in a weird gray area. While it's literally impossible to confuse a book with a video game, it does follow the exact same story, which might be a problem for Scott. He did say, I reserve the right to have fan games removed if they duplicate the original games too closely or if I feel it's necessary for some reason. The book isn't a game, but it does follow it pretty closely. So, will this fly for Scott? It all depends on what Scott wants to do with Charlie's storyline. If Scott has no plans to ever make a game on that, then it probably isn't going to be an issue. But if Scott ever wanted to make a game based on the books, then having fan-made games that already cover that story could be confusing, and therefore breaking one of Scott's rules for fan games. Typically, we see fan games that have aspects of FNAF within them, but kind of go off on their own storyline. The Joy of Creation and Five Nights at Candy's are both excellent examples of this. They take the main aspect of FNAF, a horror game with a restaurant with animatronics that try to kill you, but change the story, maps, characters, sounds, and even gameplay. When it comes to creating fan games, the most basic rule is to change things that could only apply to the original creation. For example, the plot. There's only one plot of FNAF. Anyone else who uses that plot would be in violation of copyright. However, Scott didn't come up with animatronics. He didn't come up with restaurants or animatronic entertainers in pizzerias. That's why the Chuck E. Cheese mascot still haunts my nightmares. Anyway, he doesn't have a monopoly on that idea, so anyone can create a game with those aspects in them as long as they change the characters and storyline. Even gameplay mechanics can be the same. Just look at how many Battle Royale games there are. You can't copyright a specific genre, even if that genre is animatronic, restaurant, haunted, creepy, ghost, weird, murder stuff. It's still a genre that can have multiple games within it, but developers can be dicks. How many times has Nintendo destroyed fan games that people have worked on for years? Super Mario Bros. X and Pokemon Uranium both come to mind as examples. These were completely free fan-made games that Nintendo shut down. Sometimes making fan games can anger the wrong people. So when it comes to the Silver Eyes fan game, I don't know what's gonna happen. I could easily see Scott not caring because he's done with Charlie's storyline and just has no interest in making more content on it. However, there's always the chance that more content will be made about Charlie, and then games like the Silver Eyes will be in trouble and likely will be taken down. It all depends on Scott. The man's got a plan, and he doesn't share details with anyone until the game is right. I know Scott loves the fan game community because it keeps his creation alive between releases because new content is coming out all the time. Seriously, what other game has almost 17,000 spin-offs? 17,000? That's crazy! It's a testament to the community he's built, and Scott wants to keep that community alive and thriving, so he's probably not going to be too hard on anything. So, is it likely that the Silver Eyes fan game will be taken down? No, not likely. I wouldn't expect it. At least, not yet. If Bouncy Tech decides to keep making new chapters that follow exactly each and every chapter of the book, then it might be garnering a lot more attention in the future. Maybe even enough attention for Scott to take a look. But until then, all we can do is wait for Chapter 2. I'm curious if you've played any of the fan-made FNAF games. I'm personally more of a traditional game player myself, but you're not me. Which means if you're interested in me covering games like The Joy of Creation or Five Nights at Candy's, definitely let me know. There's only 17,000 of these games to look through, so I think we can make it work. I'm Grant. This was an in-depth look at fan games and what can happen with them. If you liked it, there's some more FNAF content around here that you'll probably also enjoy. So check them out, hit that bell, subscribe, love yourself, stay handsome or hot. I don't know. I'll see you all in the next one. Bye.